Jongmyo is a Confucian shrine that houses the ancestral tablets enshrining the spirits of former kings and queens of the Joseon Dynasty. The shrine is symbolic of the Joseon state and was its largest ceremonial site. It was recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1995. Its main hall is a simple and solemn structure, divided into 19 chambers. As Joseon's most sacred space, it was not a place to be entered lightly by anyone. But the shrine needed tending. The people who did this were the Subok, government slaves assigned to guard and care for state shrines, altars, and royal tombs. The Subok were essential to keeping Jongmyo immaculate and ensuring that the many ancestral rites and events held there took place seamlessly. But since they were slaves, their existence in history was hidden in the shadows. Joseon placed enormous significance on the recording of history, but was a society that observed strict distinctions in status. The royal court did not generally leave detailed records concerning the lives of low-status people such as slaves. However, if we look carefully at the 8 volumes of the Jongmyo Uigwe, compiled from 1706 to 1842, the Subok can be found quietly performing their role. But they are not simply slaves passively carrying out the tasks assigned to them. On the contrary, these people are living reference libraries, repositories of knowledge about Joseon's most sacred space. At times, their unrivaled knowledge meant that even the king would directly seek their advice on the holding of ancestral rites. Evidence that they were Joseon's top experts in religious and ceremonial practice. The Jongmyo Uigwe contain a sequential record of important events from the founding of Jongmyo onward, showing Jongmyo's history, the ceremonies held there, and how the shrine was managed. They contain precedents or model examples for the ancestral rites and other events held on a regular basis at the shrine, and so were used as reference books. Thanks to these books, we have records of Jongmyo's history from 1706 to 1842, a period during the later Joseon Dynasty that is often seen as time of changing traditions. The term Subok first appears in 1438. It derived from a combination of 2 terms that appear in the Rites of Ju. One of these terms meant carer of the ancestral shrine, and the other servant or slave. Both terms refer to people who cleaned and maintained the tombs of former kings and queens and the shrines housing their ancestral tablets. In Joseon, some of the Subok at regional tombs and shrines were free commoners, but at shrines in the capital city, such as Jongmyo, most Subok were government slaves. They were considered to be of the lowest class and given little attention. But thanks to the detailed pictures included in the Jongmyo Uigwe, the daily lives of Jongmyo's Subok can be rescued from obscurity. The most basic duty of the Subok was to guard the shrine, but they were busiest when royal ancestral rites were held at Jongmyo. Sacrificial rites held by the royal family at Jongmyo demanded the utmost formality. On such days, Subok would clean the shrine and inspect each of the vessels and other utensils to be used for the sacrificial offerings. It was also the role of the Subok to place the offerings in special vessels and arrange them correctly on the offering table. Pictures in the Jongmyo Uigwe show that this was no simple task. For example, during a rite held 5 times a year to honor the past kings and queens, a minimum of 63 dishes had to be set in specific places on the offering tables for each king and queen. Even the officials in charge were not fully familiar with this task and had to rely completely on the specialist knowledge of the Subok. The Subok were also responsible for telling all the officiants and court retainers who were participating exactly where they had to go and what they had to do during the ritual. Royal rites at Jongmyo were considered highly important events. So it is fascinating that the success or failure of these important rites depended on the role of the Subok, who had such low status in society. An example of this can be found in the volume of the Jongmyo Uigwe for the 20th of April, 1743. On this day, Yongju was conducting a ritual at Jongmyo to call for rain. However, as he was doing so, one of his royal retainers accidentally knocked over a cup of alcohol on the offering table. The panicked expressions of the king and his retainers are obvious. They did not know if they should replace the cup or whether to leave it as it was. At this point, Pak Jinte, one of the Subok present at the ritual, stepped forward. Pak Jinte told the royal party that something similar happened in King Sukjong's time, and informed them that at that time, it was considered that the ritual was not yet over, and so another cup was offered. The royal party followed his advice, and the ceremony continued. And once the ritual was finished, King Yongju gave Pak Jinte an award. This shows us how, despite the low status of the Subok, they were richer in knowledge of Jongmyo's rituals than anyone. By the later 18th century, as many as 347 ancestral rites were being held annually by the central government alone. With so many rituals, the specialist knowledge of the Subok was vital to ensuring that these events could be held smoothly. Despite this, their low social status meant that the Subok were condemned to be forgotten by history. That we can once again shine a light on their lives and the important role they played is thanks to the detailed records contained in the Jongmyo Uigwe, recognized by UNESCO as Documentary Heritage of World Significance.